All right, so let's look at these. Is there any notation on here where you're looking at that notation and you're going, Miss Rice, no, I'm not feeling that notation? The third one, number 3? Okay, number 7, we don't like number 7. Let me write down first the ones I want you to do. So we're going to do 1 through 19 odd. So that means that the evens are extra credit. And then we're going to do 21 through 25 all. Yeah. Okay. All right. So look at these. I just want to pick out the ones that look intimidating, and I want to make sure that we can handle them. So let's find one that just seems kind of uncomfortable. You're just finding mistakes. You're saying, oh, this, yeah. So the problem was done on 21, 22, 23, and 24. Yeah, somebody made a mistake, and you just say what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so 1 through 19, let's find one that maybe we can use as kind of like a warm-up problem, make sure we understood the video, make sure we're good. Number 3, I do think is a good one. So let's maybe start with this one. I'm going to start out just by writing down what h of x is. So h of x is negative x plus 2, and I'm just writing a little bit of space here. In the front, because we do have a 2 in front of this, and so I'm going to take a 2 and I'm going to put a 2 in there at some point. And did I do colors in the video? Yeah. Yes? Okay, so I am going to do colors. If you want to take a moment and grab colors, feel free. Okay, so I have an X right here and an X right here. And then we are going to be placing a 2 in front of the whole thing. And so I'm going to put parentheses around this because the 2 has to go in front of the whole thing. So I'm going to place a 2 in front of that whole thing. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to have 2 times h of the number that I'm plugging in equals 2 times negative of the number I'm plugging in plus 2. So see how I just took the x out and I'm going to put the number in there. And the number that I'm plugging in is what? Negative 11. So this side over here is just my fancy notation, and so I'm kind of ignoring that now. And I'm just going to deal with this side. So I have a minus minus. What happens with the minus minus? Yep, it's a plus. Okay. So I have a positive 11 and a positive 2. Uh-huh. And then 2 times 13 is? 26. So this is 26. Okay. Is there another one that you guys can see that feels kind of intimidating? You could write 2h of negative 11, or you could just write 26. I'm fine either way. Number what? I was going to say number 8. Yeah, number 8 would be good to do those, because just because it's not assigned doesn't mean we shouldn't know how to do it. So let's write h of x on top. So h of x, we've got negative x plus 2. And then k of x is going to be on the bottom. K of x is 3x squared plus 4. So this is a fraction, right? H over k. So this is a fraction. And so we have an x in here for the h. And I'm going to go ahead and use a different color for the k. I don't know. Can you tell those are different? Barely. Let's use purple. Okay. So for H, they tell us to plug in 9. So I'm going to say take the H, plug in 9. So negative, plug in 9 plus 2. So I'm just leaving, right now I'm just leaving a space to plug something in. And then for the K, they're going to tell me to plug in a 2. So I'm going to say 3 times a 2 squared plus 4. And I'm still just leaving that as a fraction. So for the H, plugging in 9. And for the K, plugging in 2. So for the top, we have negative times 9, which is negative 9. Okay, so negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7, so that's what we have on top. And then on the bottom, we have a 2. We have 3 times 2 squared, and which part of that do we do first? The squared. So 2 squared is 4. Okay, so 3 times 4 we said is 12. And then 12 plus 4 is 16. And so the answer is negative 7/16. Okay. Should we try maybe some of the ones like 11, 12, where you're plugging in not just a number, but you're plugging in some letters also? Yeah, which one should we try? Which one looks scary? 12 seems kind of weird because it's got an A plus 5, which is a lot. Or we could do 13. 13 has an A minus 1. Should we do 13? Yeah, 13 because it's not extra credit. Okay, so 13 is K. So K is 3x squared plus 4. Make sure 3x squared plus 4. Okay. And so I am plugging stuff in right here and right here. Okay. And now this time I'm making my parentheses a little bit bigger for stuff to plug in because I'm not just plugging in one number, I'm plugging in like a whole expression. So I'm going to do 3, I'm going to make my parentheses bigger, squared plus 4. Okay. And then the thing that I'm plugging in is the whole like A minus 1. So A minus 1, A minus 1. Okay. And so now we have to think about what we should do first. What? Yeah, the squared. Now, do we just distribute the squared? No, thank you. You guys would have killed a kitten. That would have been very sad. Look, everybody look at the kitten. It's so cute. Look at the little kitten face. And it's chewing on its paw. Everyone see it? It's so adorable. You have to write the parentheses twice, and you have to FOIL it. You have to FOIL it. Yeah. Or if you're in the South, you say you have to fool it. Yeah. Yeah. When I first moved here from Oregon, which is where I'm from, I was like, you have to what? Oh, I don't live in Roxborough. I live in Durham. Durham. D-U-R-M, period. Yeah, Durham. Yeah. So A minus 1, A minus 1. The first time I heard a student in math say full, I was like, what? What? You have to what it? FOIL. There's 4 steps, 4 letters. FOIL. There's an I in there. Inside. First, outside, inside, last. Full, yeah. FOIL.
Wait, is foil?
FOIL. FOIL. Full. Yeah. I say oil. Yeah. Yes. Oil. There's an I in there. There's a whole I in there. Yeah, I just want you guys to know that since I started working here, I've started thinking in a Southern accent. So yes, because I'm like picking up your guys' accent. Like my brain is trying to figure it out. No, I can't. I still say you guys. I think I've lived here for almost 10 years, and I think that I've said y'all like 3 times the whole time I've lived here. It's enough that when you talk to me, I want to mimic it. I want to mimic it back to you when you talk to me. Yeah. All right. Let's do this problem. Yes. Yes. All right. You guys ready? Are we ready?
Yes.
We ready? Okay. So we have to foil this. We have to foil this. All right. So we're going to leave the 3 in the front, right? But we have a times a.
A squared.
Perfect. And then we have a times negative 1.
-1a.
Negative 1a. And then we have another negative 1 times a.
-1a.
So if we have a negative 1a and a negative, so negative 2a, okay. And then we have a negative 1 and a negative 1.
That's +1.
Positive 1. Okay.
Then 4 on
Plus
the
4. Okay. So if we take that 3 and distribute it, what do we get?
3a squared -6a plus 3.
Perfect. So if we combine like terms, our final answer is going to be
3a squared -6a plus 7.
perfect. So, yeah. No. Yep, that's the correct way to do it. Okay. Should we do 19 or 20? Are those concerning? Okay, let's do 20. Let's do 20 because I want to leave you with 19. So we have to write down, let's write down what n is. So n says negative x squared. Okay? N says negative x squared. So I'm only writing down n to start with because n is the function on the outside. F of x is what you're plugging into it. Okay? So I'll write that down. I just haven't written it down yet. Okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and start by figuring out what I'm plugging in. So I've got, here's my x. That's where I'm plugging something in. And so I'm going to leave myself some space because I'm taking a whole function and plugging it in here. So I'm going to write n. I'm going to leave myself space to plug in a whole function. How long is f of x? 2x plus 5? Okay, I'm going to leave some space there to plug it in. Equals negative, and then I've got my x squared. Yeah, you guys have done all of this math before. It's the notation that you're learning. You've never learned this notation before.
Yesterday, it's like I've learned all that math before, but it's so many rules, and that's why I'm not really
Yep.
And I get because there's for every situation there's a different rule. And
Yeah.
having to learn that's what was stressing me out.
Yep.
I was like second guessing myself.
Yeah. The box method is still foiling. It's just a different. Yeah. 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 That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. So the thing that we're plugging in here is we're plugging in f of x. That's what we're plugging in.
And then the other side's 2x plus 5.
Yep. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to write what f of x really is. So it tells us the thing that it wants you to plug in is f of x. And if we look at the front of the paper, what is f of x? 2x plus 5. So 2x plus 5 is what we're plugging in. Okay. And so now we have a squared, just like we did last time. And so if we have a squared, what does that mean?
You have to fold it. You can't just put it like 5 squared and 2x squared. You have to do it all.
Yeah, you have to write it twice, and you have to FOIL it. Should we use the box this time? Because we could do the box. Okay. Okay. So if we do the box, we have 2 terms multiplied by 2 terms, so I'm doing a 2 by 2 box. And I got 2x and positive 5, 2x and positive 5. So 2x multiplied by 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x. 2x times 5 is 10x. 5 times 5 is 25. Okay.
4x squared plus 10, plus 20x plus 25.
Now we need one more thing. What else? What are we missing?
The negative in the front.
Negative in the front.
Negative 4x squared minus 20x minus 25.
Good. Okay. So if you want to use the box and not FOIL, that's fine. You're still doing the process. You're just choosing a different method, and I'm okay with that. Yeah.
So what will these equations be like used for? Are they going to be used as graphics?
This is just teaching you the skill of knowing how to take a function and plug things into it, whether it's a number or an expression or anything else. It's showing you how to evaluate things, and that's a skill that is very useful in math. Yeah, because you guys have plugged in numbers before, but you haven't really plugged in expressions before. Yeah. It's something that you do a lot of in calculus specifically. So this is like setting you up for higher levels of math. Yeah. Okay, so go ahead and work on this for a bit. And the different operations that we have, you guys are familiar with these, even if you don't remember calling them operations. The different operations we have are like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. It's like adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing. Those are operations. So what we're going to talk about next is we're going to talk about how do you operate with functions. So how do you add functions together? How do you subtract functions? Again, you have done this before. The notation just looks different. Are we listening? You have done this before, but the notation looks different. So the beginning of the problem is what's going to look weird, and then once you get started, you'll be like, oh, this is old. But the beginning is what is going to look strange. So first, we're going to look at what addition might look like when they tell you in function language to do addition. They might write f of x plus g of x. That's one way for them to tell you to add two functions together. Or they might shorthand it and say f plus g of x. A lot of times students are like, oh, I think this means I should add f of x and g of x together and then I should multiply it by x, and that's not true. This is somebody being lazy and they didn't feel like writing x twice, and they're like, I'm going to shorthand this because not writing x twice is really going to save me a lot of time. I'm not kidding. That's literally what they're thinking. This is the shorthand version. This is the longhand version. The really shorthand version is no parentheses, just writing f plus g. That's the really shorthand version. No x. You can do either. You're going to see both, which is why I wrote them both down. I just want you guys to know what they look like. Okay? So an example of this, if we go back to, hold on, I'm going to write down. It looks like I used the problems. I'm going to write this at the top. I gave you guys these functions on the video notes, but we're going to use them again. So I said f of x was 3x minus 7. And I said g of x was x squared minus x. And I said h of x was negative x to the third And then I said m of x was negative absolute value of x plus 1. Those were on the notes last night. So if I wanted to write f of x plus g of x, then I would take the f of x and I would write 3x minus 7. And then I would take the g of x and I would write x squared minus x. Now, these are both in parentheses because they're technically two different functions. But in these parentheses, I don't have anything that I'm distributing inside. I've got a plus sign, but I don't have any number to distribute inside. I don't have any number to distribute inside over here. So I can really just take the parentheses away and say, okay, I've got 3x minus 7. I've got x squared minus x. Now I can go ahead and put this in the correct order and combine like terms and write it overall as a function and just make it look the way it should. So what term do we usually write first? Out of all of these, the x squared. Yeah, we usually write the x squared first, so I'm going to go ahead and write that one. And then after that, we usually write the x's, so I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms with these. We have a 3x and a negative x. Positive 2x. Okay, and then we have a negative 7. And so then I'll put a negative 7 on the end, and so that is my answer. I added the two functions together, and that's what I got. Okay, the next operation we're going to look at is subtraction. So here we're going to have, I'll do g of x minus h of x. And so g of x was x squared minus x. And then h of x was negative x to the third. And it's really important when you do this, the negative version specifically with the minus, the subtraction, you have to have parentheses here because if you have more than one term, you have to distribute the negative inside the parentheses. And that's a mistake that I see all the time. Students will put a minus and then not distribute the negative. And when they do that, they're killing I think it's a little Arctic fox. Is that what it is? It's one of the ones at the top. A fox? Is it a fox? Okay. Little baby fox. So, yeah, that's what we're saving is we got to save the baby foxes because we got to distribute that negative. So here there's nothing to distribute for the first one, so I'm just going to write this down, x squared minus x. But with the second one, I got to make sure that negative goes inside the parentheses. And what happens with the minus minus? A plus. Okay, and so over here we technically have the answer, but it's in the wrong order. It would be like if I introduced myself as Lee Rice Catherine. That would be weird. I gave you all my names, but I gave them to you in the wrong order. So I didn't lie to you. I just really misrepresented myself. Does that make sense? So let's do it in the correct order. What goes first? X to the third, and then what comes next? X squared, and then what comes last? Minus x, good. Okay, so that one's done. All right, and then the next one we're going to look at is multiplication. Oh, I forgot to write the shorthand version. You have to go up and do that. Or, let's write the shorthand version. The shorthand version would be g minus h of x. That's the shorthand version, okay? For multiplication, we'll say, let's do f of x multiplied by g of x. Or the shorthand version would be f times g of x. There's your shorthand. So f of x we said was 3x minus 7. G of x was x squared minus x. And this is another one where we have to write it in the parentheses. And so if you've written it like this, what hint does that kind of give you for how you have to do the problem? You have to FOIL it. So this is not new to us. We have FOILed before. The only thing that was new was the notation. The notation looked weird, but then we go, oh, FOIL it. So 3x multiplied by x squared is 3x cubed. (3x multiplied by negative x). Negative 3x squared, perfect. Negative 7 multiplied by x squared. And then negative 7 multiplied by negative x. Good catch. Positive 7x, perfect. And then we'll combine our like terms. Perfect. Oop. Okay. And then last, we have division. And division can be written two different ways. They could write it like a fraction. They could say m of x over h of x, like that. They could write it like a fraction. Or they might shorthand it and say m over h of x. That's one way. Or they could say m of x divided by h of x, which would shorthand to m divided by h of x. I've seen them write it both ways. And division is the easiest right now because later we actually do division for a whole unit. So now we do nothing with it because later it gets its own unit. Okay? Yeah, so they're definitely, they have the potential to be more difficult, but right now when we see division, we write them and we stop. Okay? Because you can kill all the baby animals doing division the wrong way. Okay? That's why we spend a whole unit on it, is because we got to save the baby animals. So many baby animals die. I haven't put the puppies up yet, but puppies are the animals that die the most, and they die with division. So we're not going to do, we're just going to write the problems down. We're going to stop there because we don't want to kill the baby puppies. And so let's go ahead and write down m of x and h of x, and then we're going to stop. So m of x is negative absolute value of x plus 1. H of x is negative x to the third. Miss Rice, shouldn't we cancel those negatives? Absolutely not. I don't want you to cancel anything. I want you to just leave it. Just leave it right there. Just stop and just leave it. Yeah, you're going to get like 1. And half the people are going to get it wrong because it was too easy and so nobody remembers it. Yeah. It's like one problem worth 1 point. And that's it. Yeah. Okay. So one more thing I want to do, because I want to show you how these problems can kind of look weird if they make you plug in numbers. So we're going to do an example with this, and then I'll show you the next worksheet. Let's say they gave you a problem and they said f plus g of negative 1. This is a combination of adding functions together and plugging a number in for x. It's doing both. So it's adding functions together, but it's also taking a number and plugging it in for x, because instead of saying of x, they said of negative 1. So you have 2 ways you can do this problem, okay? But what I would do first is I would say, okay, this shorthand notation is confusing for me. Let me go ahead and rewrite it with the not shorthand notation. So what I would do is I would rewrite this as f of negative 1 plus g of negative 1. That's what it's really saying. So the 2 ways you could do this problem is you could leave the problem with x's in it and add the f and the g together first and simplify it, and then plug in a negative 1. Or you could do what you have just been doing on the worksheet you were just working on. Plug a negative 1 into f, get an answer. Plug a negative 1 into g, get an answer. And then add those 2 answers together. Both of those processes are going to give you the same answer. It's just up to you how you do it. If it were me, I would probably do it the way you guys have been doing the previous worksheet, where I found one answer and found the other answer and then added them. That's what I would probably do. So shall we go ahead and do that? Do them separately? So the first step really is just to say this this shorthand notation is confusing. I'm always going to take it out of the shorthand notation and write the real notation because that makes more sense. Okay? So f of -1, g of -1, that means that I need to write down f of x, and I need to write down g of x, and I need to plug in -1 so that I can see what those two numbers are and see what I get. Okay? So I'm going to be plugging in, thank you. I'm going to be plugging in the -1. So if we plug in -1 for the first one, then what do we end up with over here? Is that the final answer? Final answer, okay. What do we end up with over here? -10. So -3 minus 7 is -10, okay? And then over here, I would have -1 squared minus -1, and -1 squared is 1, minus minus makes a plus, so that's 2. So I'm doing -10 plus 2, and then what do I get as my final answer? -8. Perfect. Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and hand out the sheet of practice for this. So we have about 25 minutes. Yeah, we have about 25 minutes to practice. Let's maybe say do odds on this one and evens for extra credit.
That's what it is for this one too.
Yeah. Okay. So if we look at this sheet, are there any intimidating problems? Yeah, 4 should be our favorite. 4 is where we write it and we stop. Do you guys like how I fixed? Do you like how I fixed the Bitmoji to be accurate? Is that some quality? Is that some quality editing? Because I felt.
I couldn't tell.
I think it said I believe in you, and I don't want you guys to get the wrong message here. I just want. It was a joke. It was a joke. Come on. Come on. What? Of course, I believe in everybody. All right. So, which problem should we do? Look at 9 and 10. Those are crazy. Okay. Wait. Would you rather do 9 or 10? Because I know, but 9 is all adding. It's just adding. If it's just adding, then it's literally just combining like terms. Now number 8 is just like number 4. So it's one of the easy ones, even though it looks weird.
Ms. Rice, do we have to answer the question on 17?
Yeah, that's a feedback question. It tells me how you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, what if we do number 11? Okay. Number 11 is written in shorthand. So how should we fix it? Okay. So n of x is x to the third plus 2. K of x is negative x squared minus 6x. H of x is 3x minus 1. Okay. So we had 1 minus the next one plus the next one. Okay. So, is there anything to distribute inside the first parentheses? No. Okay, so x to the third plus 2. And then what do I do for the next parentheses?
Negative
Okay, so what do I get?
plus x squared plus 6.
Okay. And then do I distribute anything for my last parentheses? No. Okay. And then what do I write first? Okay, x cubed. We knew what you meant. It was a typo. Okay. And then what do we write? X squared. Okay. And then we have some like terms to combine. Okay, so plus 9x. Okay. Plus 1. Okay.
Can you combine, or is that only in multiplying? You can combine?
You can multiply anything, but you can't add anything. Yeah. Because the x, remember x cubed, that's a volume. X squared is an area. We can't combine those. Let's try something like number 14. Let's look at number 14. Okay. So number 14 says take 1/2 of f of x. So I'm going to write 1/2, and then I'm going to write f of x down. And then it says take 3 h of x. So then I'm going to write 3, and then I'm going to write h of x. Okay? So now what would we do?
1/2 times 4x is 2x. 1, and then you're going to distribute 3. That's going to be plus 9x minus 3.
Okay?
11x minus 2.
Okay, so the notation was different, but the math that we actually did after the notation, that was normal. Okay, let's look at the notation for number 16. Let's not do the problem, but let's see what the problem is actually asking for. Okay? So what let's take it out of the shorthand. Okay? So what does this really mean?
F of x times q of x plus 2.
Plus 2 times whatever k of x is.
Okay, so f of x is 4x plus 2. Q of x is negative 2x plus 5. Oh. And then 2 times k of x, negative x squared minus 6x. Okay. So the notation is the weirdest part. Now, if you had to do number 16, what would be your strategy from here? You would FOIL this and distribute this and then combine like terms. Okay. Okay. So we're going to do odds, and then if you want extra credit on this, do the evens. You have 2 extra credit possibilities. Okay. All right, go ahead and work on these for the rest of the period. I have one more thing I'm going to hand out. So my goal is that hopefully by the end of the period we can get most of these done. We've got 15 minutes. Do you feel like you can get, so you don't have a ton of extra problems you're taking home, hopefully? Let me see how long this video is.
And there is the thing you're going to be handing out for the video
You have a notes video.
for student.
Yeah. Notes video due Monday. Yes.